Hello everybody. I'm going to do a video uh, on the several steps needed taken on building a FREY style super stock Tjet using all the latest and greatest parts, not necessarily tools or techniques, because everybody's technique is different, and I have I have most of the tools needed to do the job, and I improvise on some stuff. But with that being said, I have this chassis. I did a couple of videos this morning on, but they were pretty long. I mean, an hour and 20. Two videos, and one was an hour long, the other was an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes long. And that's just, it was 1 hour for me to just on this here, the cluster shaft, getting the cluster shaft set up, and it was an hour and a half video getting the motor plate set up and getting the amp draws. I fired the chassis up. I had also did in that video aligning and cleaning the leafs and the brush tube holes and breaking into brushes and seating the brushes. This car is actually really smooth. This thing's going to be a bullet. But I want to try and do a shorter video. I'm gonna maybe do several videos instead of like 2 or 3 videos. So this one here is going to sit over there for now. But what I'm going to do is start with a blue chassis, because I also have a red one. And for those of you that know me, I have the absolute worst luck with red chassis. I have a huge issue getting the motor plates right. I don't know why. I think it's just a luck thing. And I say that because my fastest FREY is a red chassis and red motor plates, so whatever. But I'm going to save that build for last. So at any rate, what I'm going to do today, or in this video, is simplify it. I try to explain it as best as I can, as simply as I can, so you guys can see the processes and the steps that are taken from what I've learned, what I've seen, and my experience in building chassis. I am not the best builder in the country. There are many builders in the country, and there are many more builders out there that are better than me. But I do know what I'm doing, and I do build some pretty fast cars, and I've sold several cars and have built, I don't even know how many, between Auroras and Whizzjets. I have built a couple dash chassis, but those are mainly just IROC cars, excuse me. I basically keep those things around for IROCs because that's about all they're good for. But at any rate, we won't get into that discussion today, or any other day for that matter. With that being said, this is going to be a build for a super stock FREY chassis. You know, foam tire car. It's got it's going to get a dynamic arm. It's a 3-lamb dash. Killer bee magnets. Going to be shoehorning some titanium rear axles in it. What else? RTHO gears, obviously. Dynamic brushes. Wizard shoes and springs. His new WTF 50 front end. So, and I've yet to play with one of those, so it'll be cool to monkey fart around with that. Yeah, I've got 3 of them because I'm building 3 cars. As you can see, this is one of them, and there's that, and then the red one. And they're all going to be built super stocks or FREY cars, not FREYs. They're going to be built as FREY cars, and I will be able to tinker, toy, and monkey fart around and try to see what that front end's all about. So, without any further ado, going to do a quick explanation as to what it is we need to accomplish on building a whiz jet. Okay? And the issues that, if you've built a whiz jet, you know what the issues are. If you haven't, I will make a quick explanation of them. It is a great chassis, hands down. It is a game changer in Tjet land. It makes trying to not hoard hundreds of chassis and try to find that one unicorn chassis that, you know, the axle holes are just a couple thou lower or whatever, or then the magnet sits just a little bit closer to the arm, and to match up your motor plates because they're perfectly aligned with the holes on the chassis, blah 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 blah. This made it a lot easier, but also to build it correctly you have to put some work into it. Not as much as an Aurora chassis, but you still have to put some work into it. And the majority of the problems that lie with this chassis is all in the alignment of the motor plate. As difficult as it is to try and get A and B to talk to each other, I can understand the hiccups. And it is what it is. We build them, and we press on, and we race them. And we have fun doing it. Sometimes. We all have fun racing. It's building there. We have the sometimes. That's where the sometimes come from. It's the building process. Sometimes it'll be a real pain in the ass. But the problem with the motor plate is, you can see up in the front, it's got the wiggles. Okay. You can see that right there. It's got the wiggles. So there's a little bit of a gap there, which is going to take the armature and you know, wobble it back and forth if the motor plate's not locked in correctly. And the other main issue is, and I've seen this a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people that have built it that don't have the knowledge of order tools or whatever, the time the monkey fart around with it, is getting this hole, excuse me, a little spit there, pig, this hole lined up with this hole. Okay. And you'll see some people will take the cluster shaft and it'll be sticking, you know, way up, because they won't put it through. They'll put it through very slightly like that on the bottom of it, so it doesn't get into the it won't enter the chassis. And the irony of this chassis is, and I've found that the black ones are probably the best ones for building, because there's not a lot of work that's involved with the motor plate, and just finding that out building this one here today. And now looking at this one's going to require all the fun. Okay. And all the fun being, if you can look in there, I love this camera. Look how clear it is that close. That cluster shaft is, as I push it through, is not lined up correctly. And as you can see, what it's doing here is pushing the motor plate up. Okay. And the reason why it's pushing the motor plate up, sadly, is because the gear, or the cluster shaft, excuse me, if you can see it, and that I'll get a little bit bigger rod for reference. That is not square at all. Alright, now when this sits in the chassis, square in the chassis, you think it's going to put, it's not going to, I mean, you know, if we line this up with the chassis, right? We'll try to square up the chassis to the rod. This is 065 tungsten welding rod, TIG welding rod, and I use it as a file, if you will. I actually need to find some. I need to get some more, because this is now like 10,000 grit sandpaper. It used to be a little bit grittier, but I've used it so much it's wore the coating off. But nonetheless, if we square up visually, square up the chassis and the rod, you can see what it's doing to the motor plate. Okay, and in order to get the motor plate to sit square, you need to mess with the hole on the motor on the cluster shaft hole. You need to mess with that to get it so that it's A, square, and B, lines up with the chassis hole. Okay, and that's a real problem. See what it's doing? Focus. Thank you. You see what it's doing there? That big gap. It's pushing the front of the plate up. Now I'm going to correct that. And a couple of things that you can do to correct it once you actually get it laid in there, because if you don't correct it, you can see it pushes down on it. What it's going to do is it's going to create pressure on the cluster shaft, binding it, losing horsepower, and creating more amp draw, hence losing horsepower. And it's going to take your final drive gear and it's going to dig it right in here into the motor plate, which is entirely not what you want to do. I have done several different things over several different builds to try and remedy the problem, and I'm walking into this one going, this is going to be a great video, because you're going to see a lot of little tips and tricks, if you will. So I guess without rambling on any further, we're going to fix this problem. So I'm going to take the new cluster shaft, stainless steel 065, and we're going to look at it and see how much wiggle I've got, top or bottom. It's appearing to me that the bottom's the loosest, which is a good thing, because if the bottom's the loose end, you can then take the rod and straighten it out just by peening this hole, the bottom end of that hole, differently. But what do you mean differently? Allow me to show you. The problem I also have with this tool, and RC said it best, we're asking a lot out of these little tools, to try and peen these things perfectly square every single time. But you want to try and get it as square as you can. And what we're going to do is we're going to put pressure on the top of the plate while holding on to the bottom of the tool. Okay, and then we're going to peen it in. And you see how it kind of squished it down, right? And there's your peen, which is pretty straight, pretty centered, I should say. And it's still fairly loose, which means I still got to go more. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take and do the same on the top. I'm going to put my little adapter tool, which is just a piece out of a car audio. It's a door lock actuator piece. It locks the cable in, so when you put an aftermarket door lock actuator, you can connect a rod from the existing rod on the car to the cable on the actuator, and it just joins it together. I kept this stupid thing, and it works perfectly for what I did. It fits right over the hole on the motor plate, and it cut the recesses in it so it misses the pins. But we're going to do the same thing here. Let this thing catch up with me and focus. There we go. Thank you kindly. We're going to peen this down. and it actually peens it off center, which sucks, but peening it like that, it's more square. Okay, and we still got a lot of flop. So we're going to need to hit this again. And we need to tighten it up same way. Hold the tool and push on it because you want to peen it kind of crookedly. Crookedly, that's right, crookedly. Google it, it's not a word. That's still a little crooked, but it tightened the hole up. There's no more flop. When you put this plate on there, you can still see what it does. Hey. And not only that, it's also pushing it off to the side now. So we're all over the board on this one. This chassis is going to be just a joyous amount of fun to get right. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and chamfer the edge on this. There's already chamfer on there, but we're going to chamfer it some more. See, it's got a nice little chamfer on there. We're going to do it to the other side. Excuse me. Now I got a nice chamfer on both sides of that. The reasoning behind doing that is so when you press your gear into there using Shane's adapter tool, I did a video of this. You can check on my page on how that works. I'm not going to get into detail on it in this video. But we change this over and add this. Put in your, and make sure that the surface in here and your anvil is clean. And then we're going to put the adapter tool into it, and then put whatever side you want, because you were so cool to chamfer both sides now. So we're going to go ahead and put those into the adapter tool. And then send it. Now the thing is, the way he designed this tool is you take this piece of the press and bottom it out on the tool. It takes the cluster shaft and gives you just enough to put your Gives you just enough to put your pinion on the bottom of it, and just enough to stick through at that point the bottom of the motor plate. So you'd have like that, and it'll be flush. But we're not doing that. I can't believe I just shot that thing across the bench, and there it is. Okay, so now this here will allow you to put the motor plate on, and the cluster shaft will stick through the bottom of the chassis, the way it was originally designed. And the purpose behind doing that is because I'm actually going to want to press that through a little bit more. The purpose behind doing that is because it adds another layer of structural to the cluster shaft, so it doesn't oval out the motor plate. It has two spots because obviously you got your drive gear, your crown gear is on there too. It just keeps things a lot more excuse me, a lot more square, and that's kind of what you want, just like how the factory intended it, which I could actually go a little bit more still. I'm not a fan of that. Bear with me while I fix this problem. There we go. This should be the one. Okay, sticking through, kind of, not really. Alright. So now I have to free this up because it is just ridiculously tight. We're going to take what I would normally take is my welding rod, which is like I said, 065 is a file, and I would use it kind of like a round file. In this case, because I peened it so hard, I might use it as a I might use my reamer instead. 065. 0630, 0635. We'll do the 0635. Let's see what that did. Ooh, that's nice. That's good. That's good, yeah. A little bit too much flop in there that I would like. A little bit more than I would like. Let's see if I can go ahead and tighten that up. There's such a pain in the ass doing this. Getting it just right. This is one of the hardest parts of the build, is getting the cluster shaft gear to line up correctly, and also the getting the motor plate square in a chassis is again one of the hardest parts of the build. There's a lot of feel to get the technique right. To get what you're looking for, there's a lot of feel, like how hard to twist on this to get it to peen correctly, so that you're not overdoing it or not doing it enough, which would in that case would be underdoing it. And as I put this in here, it is just binding so bad. but I like the amount of resistance that I have here, which is minimal at best. So now the thing to do is to switch out your anvil and add in the 9-tooth anvil, and we're going to just drop in a brand new wizard 9-tooth pinion. And I'm trying to do it so you can see it on the video, but I'll show you once I get it lined up. The depth, if you're fortunate enough, you have the other issue, or the other way I did this, the cluster shaft can go so far into the press. So if you're fortunate enough and you drove the cluster shaft far enough into the final drive gear, you'll leave enough on there where when you press this down, you won't move the final drive down on the cluster shaft. But you're going to want to go ahead and let your camera get into focus. And you're probably going to want about 3 thou worth of play. And also, if you do it just right, you can't go anymore with this. It'll bottom out. And you can see it's laid out pretty good. I do want a little bit tighter. Again, it's a personal thing. It's a lot of feel. I got this just a little bit too tight. So, I gotta grab the old push kebab, and just give this a little bit of a twist and try to loosen it up. If I loosened it too much, back and forth, back and forth. Just a little bit, and man, I like that. That's good. That's good. I like that. The gear's crooked. We're gonna fix that. Well, how are you gonna fix that, Steve? Watch, I'll show you. I just turned this video into it, add another 10 minutes onto it. We're gonna fix that wobble. Because somehow, some way, that got wobbled. I'm not happy about it. Okay. We'll put the anvil in there again. Put the adapter tool on there. And we got a reverse process on everything. And basically, to do it this way, you have to undo everything. So we're pushing the cluster shaft back out of the 9-tooth. got stuck in there. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and send this again. Hopefully that's enough. Wow. Well, that's fucked, isn't it? Come on, get out of here. I am not happy at all. What the hell happened here? It's a little off. Brand new gear, new cluster, new everything. Look at it. Okay. We're going to manipulate the system. Off-camera adjustment. Bear with me momentarily. Please pause for station identification. Okay. I think I fix. Looks good, huh? Alright. So now we'll take this 9er and press this back on there. Change out the anvil with the press. Okay. That is, that right there is good. An extra 10 minutes worth of monkey farting around. And it is, that's smooth. That's actually smoother than the black one I just made. So that's going to be a wrap on this video. I want to try and keep these down to about a half hour a clip, so that we can y'all don't get bored. Be like, Jesus, I wanna watch and see how he modifies the motor plate, but I gotta watch a whole hour to get there. So I'm gonna try and keep them down to a half an hour for you guys. And again, I appreciate you checking in and watching. Give me the thumbs up, share the video, do what you gotta do, subscribe, like the page. Appreciate all of the support as I normally get from my fellow racers. We'll talk later. See you in the next video.